Lu Lei placed an order on the black market for 100,000 tiger cubs. He personally raised them, just so that when they grew up, they would recognize him as their father. He knew that when the world's population exceeded 9 billion, the Earth would initiate a human eradication plan. Animals and plants would rapidly proliferate and evolve, and then begin to hunt humans. After his rebirth, Lu Lei learned that humans could form contracts with animals. He immediately began to hoard the top predators in the food chain, starting with the world's most ferocious northeast golden gradual layer tigers, then the world's second most ferocious Bengal tigers. While others were terrified of the impending apocalypse, Lu Lei had already created a paradise with tens of thousands of tigers. At this moment, in the Jilin Province Forest Park, the director of the Wildlife Protection Bureau was reporting to Lu Lei. Director Lu, as per your instructions, all the tigers from the Changbai mountain range to the Xing'an mountain range have been gathered in your breeding base. The number has reached 3,000. Lu Lei frowned. 3,000 northeast tigers were indeed a large number, but it was far from his expectations. He knew of a man called the Wild Boar King in the tomb, who, during the blood moon, formed a contract with 300 of his own pigs. Like the beast tamers in novels, he could control 300 rapidly evolving domestic pigs, becoming one of the top 10 human powers in the apocalypse. However, everyone's talents are different, and the speed of evolution varies greatly. Lu Lei could only hope to make up for his inferior evolutionary talent with the number of tigers. Even if he did not successfully form a contract after the apocalypse, he could still hunt all these tigers and obtain blood essence, the best nourishment to enhance the speed of evolution. So, under the pretext of ecological restoration, he once again proposed to the director that he would provide free breeding for any tigers, whether they were from the northeast or South China. Lu Lei also secretly purchased tigers from neighboring countries on the black market, regardless of the breed, as long as there were enough of them. All must be transported to the tiger base before New Year's Eve. Having said this, Lu Lei drove his breeding truck into the tiger park, throwing hundreds of kuan into the tiger feeding area. He watched the tigers eating and felt satisfied. If he could form a contract with thousands of tigers, he would be invincible in the apocalypse. However, tigers are not like the gentle animals at home. Despite studying professional beast breeding knowledge, Lu Lei was not sure he could establish a close relationship with each tiger. The only tigers he could fully trust and interact with were those he had raised since they were cubs. But even if he could only form a contract with these few tigers, it would definitely be worth it. Therefore, Lu Lei spent 5 years building a solid base in the tiger park. The center of the base was a 100-meter-high peak, originally an air defense base during the war. The entire mountain was made of 100-meter-thick granite, which could not be penetrated even by the most advanced ground-to-air missiles. Although Lu Lei had the financial resources to build a more robust military base, all these would be futile once the blood moon descended. Even this 100-meter-thick hard granite could be penetrated instantly by evolved earthworms. So hiding and running were useless. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. The only way to survive was to quickly establish an advantage at the beginning of the apocalypse and always stay at the forefront of evolution. That was the only correct answer to survival. Thinking of this, Lu Lei quickly gathered his thoughts and continued to play his role as a competent breeder. He believed that tigers were different, and naturally, the breeding focus was different. This time, the food he brought was not the cheap kuan. He led 2 well-behaved, delicious, young and strong reindeer into a specially planned tiger park. As soon as he opened the door, the 2 leisurely reindeer immediately tensed up, their little heads spinning around as if danger was approaching. Lu Lei naturally let go of the rope. Sensing danger, the 2 reindeer started to run. But they didn't know where the danger was coming from, so they ran around in panic. Roar. Dinner time! Lu Lei shouted with all his might. He hadn't forgotten to exercise his body in the past 5 years. With a height of nearly 1.9 meters and a body as large as a double-door refrigerator, his shout was full of energy. The sound gradually spread. After a while, a tiger with white eyebrows and hanging eyes slowly stepped out from the dense forest. Upon closer inspection, this ferocious tiger was surprisingly large. Ordinary northeast tigers are about 2 meters long and weigh 300 to 400 pounds. But this northeast tiger was nearly 3 meters long just by visual estimation, and its physique was exceptionally majestic. Its fur was beautiful, its head round, its nose wide, its eyes large, and its mouth was lined with white, hard whiskers with black spots. Even its whiskers were about 2 to 3 centimeters long. As it walked, it exuded a fierce aura. The black pattern on its forehead resembled the Chinese character for king, making it look even more powerful. Roar! With a roar, the tiger roared through the forest. The 2 aimless reindeer were so scared that their souls seemed to have flown out of their bodies. After a moment of stiffness, they ran for their lives. But this was all in vain. The tiger only watched for a while, then leaped up and caught up with the scattered reindeer. It stopped abruptly, leaped up, and pounced. A heavy slap knocked the reindeer to the ground. They died instantly. Tearing, swallowing, patrolling, even when eating, this northeast tiger still showed the dominance of the king of beasts. Soon, the other reindeer also ended up in its stomach. Unlike wild tigers, this big tiger didn't have the habit of storing food. It wanted to eat well at every meal, and the one who provided all this was the strange two-legged creature not far away. Roar after eating, the tiger leisurely strolled over to Lu Lei. It propped itself up with its hind legs, curling its body around Lu Lei in an embrace, showing an intimate relationship that couldn't be more intimate. The huge tiger leaned against Lu Lei's head, its tongue's large barbs retracted, continuously licking Lu Lei's face and hair. All right, big tiger," Lu Lei stroked the tiger's head, looking helpless. Even with all his strength, he couldn't move the tiger at all. Although the barbs were retracted, the tiger's tongue was still very rough, which felt strong against humans' delicate skin. Licking the head was even worse. The wet saliva could mess up a well-made hairstyle in just a few licks. "I really don't know what to do with you," Lu Lei smiled as he played with the huge creature in front of him. This Tiger King, named Big Tiger, was his greatest reliance in 8 days. 3 years ago, Lu Lei's northeast tiger base was already established. So, he picked a tiger cub with the best physical condition from that batch of newborn northeast tigers and raised it personally, spending almost 20 hours a day together. He hired a team of nearly dozens of elite staff to observe its body changes every moment and formulate diet and training plans. Living up to Lu Lei's expectations, the big tiger in front of him had become the most powerful existence in the entire tiger park. Even the wild tigers with strong wild instincts were no match for Big Tiger. Lu Lei didn't hope to form contracts with hundreds of tigers. Even if he could only form a contract with Big Tiger, he would be content. You know, in the previous apocalypse, people relied on small cats, small dogs, and human intelligence to make a difference. Not to mention forming a contract with a massive creature weighing 500 pounds. After playing with Big Tiger for 2 hours, Lu Lei left. With only 8 days left, he still needed to prepare. The extremely dangerous apocalypse, no matter how much preparation, is never too much. Inside the office at the Tiger Garden, Lu Lei was busy using his phone to purchase all the necessary supplies. This was after the apocalypse. Evolved plants and animals were all edible, and they were more delicious than the current existing food. However, other household items still needed to be purchased. He wasn't sure if they would have any use, but he was certain that money would be useless. At the level of business he was doing, he didn't have to personally handle purchases. He had the most specialized channels and professional staff to deliver everything to him. Apart from household items, he had a batch of smuggled arms on the way. In the early days of the apocalypse, heavy firepower could still play a significant role. As he clicked to purchase, the office door suddenly opened. Lu Lei frowned, about to reprimand the intruder. A woman, comparable to a supermodel, walked in. She was nearly 1.8 meters tall, her presence filling the room as she moved. Even without speaking, one could sense her dominant aura. "Why are you here?" Seeing the woman in front of him, Lu Lei felt a complex mix of emotions. This woman, named Xian Yaoqiao, was 1 year older than him and his childhood friend. "Why can't I come?" Xian Yaoqiao didn't show any courtesy, treating the Tiger Garden as her own home and looking around. "You're still the same as before," Lu Lei commented. "As if you know me well. Since I went to study in a beautiful country, you haven't even initiated a single phone call, have you?" Xian Yaoqiao grumbled. The two were childhood friends and grew up together. There was no need to hide anything between them. "I heard from my dad that you sold your father's company." "Hey, that was your father's life's work, and you just sold it?" Xian Yaoqiao didn't show any courtesy. She was just short of pointing at Lu Lei's nose while speaking. It was quite uncomfortable to listen to. Lu Lei was already used to it. When he said that she was still the same as before, he wasn't just referring to their childhood, but also the first 2 years of the apocalypse in his previous life. Logically speaking, with his abilities, he should have died in the early days of the apocalypse. The reason he was able to survive for 2 more years was all thanks to the woman in front of him. Yes, he relied on a woman. In the apocalypse, power was supreme. Xian Yaoqiao, who appeared to be a fragile woman, awakened ice abilities after the apocalypse and evolved rapidly. 2 years later, she was at the forefront of human evolution. If it weren't for Lu Lei secretly leaving, he might have been able to survive for a few more years under Xian Yaoqiao's protection, but he couldn't, and didn't want to. "If you can't handle your uncles and aunts, let me know, and I'll naturally help you." Xian Yaoqiao sat down cross-legged, propping her chin up and looking at Lu Lei without any expression. "No need." Lu Lei took a clean water glass from the side, poured a cup, and handed it over. "I'm not afraid of those uncles and aunts seizing the assets and positions that belong to my family. I just want to do something I like." "What, raising tigers?" Xian Yaoqiao rolled her beautiful eyes, her tone full of frustration. "Don't other families know about your family situation? Doesn't our family know? This generation, apart from you, are all wastrels. You sold all your shares to your uncles and aunts. It's fine now, it's stable, but what about later? Your family's current status is the result of countless generations of accumulation. You don't want it to decline in your generation, do you? Lu Lei thought for a moment. He wasn't close with those family members. Everyone in the world came for profit, and everyone acted for profit, even relatives were the same. His father had been the head of the family for more than 20 years, and he didn't know how much effort he had wasted on internal affairs. Those people had long held a grudge against their family. He remembered that when the apocalypse broke out in his previous life, he initially thought about seeking refuge with his family. After all, a family as large as theirs had some foundation, but he didn't expect that without his parents' support, he was less than a dog in the eyes of the family. Without any excuse, they directly ordered their subordinates to drive him away. How ridiculous it was at that time. The people he thought he was closest to were only in his imagination. So in this life, as soon as Lu Lei was reborn, he immediately seized control of the company while his father was on his deathbed. He quickly developed and accumulated wealth over several years, and half a year ago, he sold all his shares. Most of these shares were jointly acquired by those uncles and aunts. He didn't care who the buyer was, as long as they paid. In this life, Lu Lei didn't have time to waste arguing with those people. Every second was spent preparing to survive. The moment the apocalypse truly arrived, everyone was an ant. Whether it was a family or national power, everything fell apart in the chaos. As for shares, money, well, they were just waste paper. So, I don't care. Even if it declines, it's fate. My parents are gone, I don't have any attachment to that family. Lu Lei said with an unconcerned look on his face. You don't care? Xian Yao Chao laughed in anger when she heard this. She stood up, brought her face close to his, the distance between them so close that they could smell each other's breath. You don't care, good for you, you don't care. Do you know that your grandpa and my grandpa arranged a marriage for us? I know. Lu Lei nodded. You know, and you still don't care. It seems you don't know that your foolish uncle came to our house to propose marriage a few days ago. And the key point is, my dad, he actually has the idea to agree. They didn't listen to Grandpa's words at all. It's really outrageous. Hearing this, Lu Lei was slightly embarrassed. This was the same as the development in his previous life. In his previous life, he was a prodigal son. Without his parents' support, the family business fell into the hands of his uncle. The latter, being rich and powerful, naturally wanted to arrange a good marriage for his son, and the object was the Xian family, who had been friends for generations. Knowing the result, Lu Lei still asked. So what do you think? I told him to get lost. Xian Yao Chao didn't hesitate at all. I find Lu Tianju disgusting just by looking at him. Marry me. He's worthy. Lu Lei nodded slightly. To Xian Yao Chao, this was an action that deserved to be sent to hell. What's your attitude? Isn't it obvious what I think from my reaction? I've always listened to my grandpa since I was a child, and you, I can get along with. If I have to marry, I can only marry into your Lu family. Marrying you wouldn't be too bad. Xian Yao Chao didn't hide anything and expressed all her thoughts. Very direct, very frank. Logically, Lu Lei should cherish such a woman, and he should not have secretly left in his previous life. But what's scarier than a northeast tiger is a northeast woman. Xian Yao Chao was one of the best. She was particularly strong and had a strong desire for control. When the woman was strong and the man was weak, it was even more extreme, not to mention his previous life. Just look at now, she had already started arranging for Lu Lei. What's the point of raising these tigers? If you have this hobby, we can raise a few to play with, but you're making this a business. Alright, I can't get anything out of you, so listen to me. Don't worry about this tiger garden for now. You have a lot of funds in your hands now, right? Invest in a project with me and show my dad your attitude. Maybe, we can make it work. Xian Yao Chao strided around the room, mumbling to herself. Her tone was very confident. Actually, my dad likes you a lot. Your company was doing so well a few years ago, why did you have to start this tiger garden? Is it because I didn't beat you enough when we were kids, that you came up with such a strange idea? Just listen to me. The familiar demeanor and words made Lu Lei feel a bit dazed, thinking about how he was arranged in the same way in his previous life. Those days when he was weak and protected by a woman, and everything he did had to be arranged, were really, really embarrassing. In this life, even if he dies, Lu Lei wants to die standing. Shaking his head, he said in a not very loud but decidedly firm voice, Xian Yao Chao, forget it, you're not calling me sister. Upon hearing the first half of his sentence, Xian Yao Chao frowned. But when she heard the latter half, forget it, she exploded. What the hell did you say? Ha! Forget it, forget what? Xian Yao Chao's anger was expected by Lu Lei. She never hid her emotions around him. Moreover, Lu Lei had always been in a weaker position. He was younger when he was a child, and as he grew older, his abilities were not as good as others. After the apocalypse, even his evolution potential was far behind others. Therefore, Xian Yao Qiao had always been able to summon him at will, and could scold or hit him whenever she wanted. This woman was genuinely good to him, but she also had a bad temper. He didn't know whether this was a good thing or a sad thing. Forget it, Xian Yao Qiao. Lu Lei said calmly, having prepared for today and already prepared his words. I don't have any big ambitions in my life. I just want to live peacefully. I don't want to pursue any wealth or honor. You and I have different worldviews, what the hell? Xian Yao Qiao couldn't stand it anymore and raised her hand to hit Lu Lei, trying to wake him up, but the hand that swung down forcefully was caught by a pair of strong hands. Lu Lei continued calmly, you have your world, and I have my life. The things our grandparents said don't matter to our parents, let alone us. Xian Yao Qiao seemed to have something to say, but Lu Lei interrupted her. Forget it, Xian Yao Qiao, you're just used to bullying me. You don't really like me. Although this was Lu Lei's guess, it was based on facts. In the 2 years after the apocalypse, the two were always together, but they never took the final step. Over time, Lu Lei became more and more self-conscious. If they had a substantial relationship, a man's dignity could sometimes be put down in front of his wife, but Xian Yao Qiao was just a woman protecting him. No. Xian Yao Qiao was seeing this side of Lu Lei for the first time, and she was somewhat at a loss. So, Lu Lei said self-mockingly, let's each live our own lives. We don't have to be forced together according to our grandfather's wishes. No. Xian Yao Qiao couldn't come up with any rebuttal for a while. She had never imagined today's scene. She only knew that life without Lu Lei would lack a lot of fun. Even if her hands were controlled, she still raised her proud head and declared with her chin, don't think you can get rid of me like this. I've bullied you, so what? I tell you, I really am used to it. Lu Lei was truly speechless. Facing the woman in front of him, his feelings were too complicated. To say he didn't care at all, that was impossible. Putting everything aside, she was the one who had protected him for 2 years in the apocalypse, where death could come at any moment. Because of him, she had taken many risks she shouldn't have. He thought that if the apocalypse came and he successfully made a contract and gained powerful strength, maybe he could stand in front of this strong woman in a new way. To protect her. And maybe, bully her. Of course, that's just a thought for now. Whether he could successfully make a contract was still unknown, let alone what would happen after the apocalypse. While thinking, Xian Yao Qiao's eyebrows gradually furrowed, and she looked more and more wronged, as if she was about to cry. You're hurting me, sorry. Lu Lei quickly let go. He had been working out every day and dealing with tigers, so he naturally had a lot of strength. Perhaps he had unknowingly used too much strength. A look of apology appeared on his face. Just as he was about to check on her, he saw Xian Yao Qiao grab his arm with lightning speed and bite down hard. No, Lu Lei winced in pain. A curse was on the tip of his tongue, but before he could say it, he saw Xian Yao Qiao's triumphant expression. Think you're great because you're strong? Dare to grab your sister? Have you rebelled? Today is just a warning. In a while, I'll train to be stronger than you. Lu Lei believed that Xian Yao Qiao's words were not just bragging, but truth. This woman was terrifyingly stubborn, otherwise, she wouldn't have become one of the strongest evolvers in the 2 years after the apocalypse. Becoming the strongest wasn't just about talent. Of course, the strongest certainly had talent. Having regained some face, Xian Yao Qiao didn't plan to say anything more. Her mind was a bit chaotic today, not suitable for arguing. She dropped a harsh word. Let me tell you, when I reach the age to get married, I'll marry you if I have to, and I'll marry you if I don't. So, whether you sell this tiger park or not, you have to sell it. This is not a discussion, it's a notice. Lu Lei was about to speak, but Xian Yao Qiao had already walked away, shaking her head. He only heard a clear mutter. Is she sick? I have such a good wife for nothing, but I have to play with tigers. I'm really stupid, I deserve to be beaten. Lu Lei knew it would be like this. If Xian Yao Qiao could be persuaded in a few words, she wouldn't be Xian Yao Qiao. Today's words were just a temporary measure. Before Xian Yao Qiao was fully prepared, she probably wouldn't bother him again. There were still 8 days left. If he could successfully make a contract and gain powerful strength, then he would bring the fierce tiger to her, and spank her hard, and say in one breath. Now tell me if raising tigers is useful, is it useful? It sounded childish, but Lu Lei really wanted to do it. If he didn't succeed, then there would be no if. In order to succeed, he had to be fully prepared. If the contract with the Wild Boar King was accidental, then Lu Lei would maximize the probability under this accident. The Wild Boar King had blank attributes, no special abilities, and weak evolution capabilities. Lu Lei was also a waste. The Wild Boar King and his pigs had been together for 3 years, and Lu Lei and his tigers had been together for 5 years. The Wild Boar King had 2,000 domestic pigs and made a contract with 300 of them. Lu Lei currently had 3,000 Northeast tigers, still not enough. He wanted to double this number. Although there weren't many Northeast tigers in China, there were still some in Russia and other countries. In addition to the Northeast tiger, there were also South China tigers, Bengal tigers, Caspian tigers, Indo-Chinese tigers, South China tigers, Malayan tigers, Sumatran tigers, Javan tigers, Bali tigers. No matter what kind of tiger, as long as it's a fierce wild animal that can be bought with money, bring it all. Lu Lei's account still had hundreds of billions. Because of the rampant reproduction of wild animals, these animals were no longer endangered wild animals, and there were special channels for purchasing them, although in China, this was still not allowed. Tigers had become second-class protected animals, but they were still protected animals. But the end of the world was coming. What was there to be afraid of? With only 8 days left, it was about time. Lu Lei made several international calls. On the other end of the phone were the sellers he had already contacted. "Hello, it's me. Yeah, ship it." Only 5 days remain until the apocalypse, and the tigers smuggled by Lu Lei through various channels are being delivered one after another to the tiger park. They are placed in cages made of specific metals and collectively placed in the same area. Roar! Roar! The unfamiliar environment causes these tigers to become extremely violent. Their intermittent roars make the staff tremble with fear. Oh my god, how did Boss Lu bring so many tigers again? He really does love tigers. Siberian tigers, Bengal tigers, Indo-Chinese tigers, South China tigers, how many did he get this time? Thousands? Such a big spender. Who could have imagined that the world's most incredible tigers could all be found in the same park? But isn't this illegal? Shush, do you want to lose your job? Boss Lu, there are a total of 7,365 tigers here, with Bengal tigers being the majority at 3,154, and the rest are Indo-Chinese tigers, South China tigers, Malayan tigers, etc. Good. Lu Lei looks satisfied at the nearly 10,000 tigers in front of him. The most satisfactory result of his hard work over the past 5 years. The most ferocious among the tigers is the largest Siberian tiger, followed by the Bengal tiger, both of which can compete with male lions. After the apocalypse, if Lu Lei successfully forms a contract, he will place the battlefield in the vast mountains, Changbai Mountain, and the greater and lesser Xing'an ranges. There are countless plants and animals. There, presumably, when the apocalypse arrives, this place will not only be a forbidden zone for ordinary people but will also be the place with the most rapid evolution. By then, the tigers with top-level hunting abilities will still be the kings of the forest. The brown bear might be the only natural enemy, but in a one-on-one fight, the brown bear rarely wins against the agile tiger. These nearly 10,000 tigers can definitely sweep all the mountains in the eastern 3 provinces, if only they were all Siberian tigers. The Siberian tiger has the strongest combat power. Like the Indo-Chinese tigers here, they can't even beat male lions, let alone compare with Siberian tigers. But there is no choice. Apart from China, only Russia has Siberian tigers. Lu Lei has also bribed the local government and capital in Russia, breeding a large number of Siberian tigers. However, it's now the end of the year. The border control is too strict. Whether they can be transported over is still uncertain. Plans are plans, reality is reality. For this, Lu Lei has no choice but to let nature take its course. Boss Lu, what do you think? A group of people responsible for smuggling are eagerly looking forward to the final payment. Of course, Lu Lei understands their meaning. He smiles slightly. Okay, I'll arrange for the final payment to be sent to you right away, don't worry. He doesn't renege on his deals. With the wealth he possesses, buying these tigers is more than easy. He sends the message to the finance department. A moment later, everyone present receives the final payment. They are all overjoyed. Just now they were very nervous. The price of a mature tiger on the black market is about $150,000, nearly 7,000 tigers. The price is nearly 10 billion. And these 7,000 tigers have been collected over the past 5 years. The cost of breeding over the past 5 years is also included in this transaction, in addition to the cost of smuggling, transportation, and so on. The initial calculation no less than 50 billion. The cost paid to their various organizations is as high as 20 billion. Lu Lei paid a deposit of 4 billion, leaving a balance of 16 billion. That's an unimaginably huge amount of money. If it weren't for Lu Lei's consistent and friendly communication over the past 5 years, his excellent international reputation, and indeed his substantial funds, these people wouldn't have come at all. Spending billions to buy 7,000 tigers, wow, that's outrageous. At this moment, flattering comments are offered one after another. Boss Lu is so talented at such a young age. Only a young talent like Boss Lu has the strength to keep so many tigers. Boss Lu is the only person I've seen who takes his hobby to the extreme, keeping nearly 10,000 tigers. That's really a big deal. Boss Lu is really awesome, I admire him. In the past, China was far behind other countries in terms of keeping tigers, but now, Boss Lu is ahead of everyone else. These nearly 10,000 tigers are really majestic. It's unimaginable if they could be taken out. After a flurry of flattering comments, Lu Lei accepts them all with a smile. After some courteous exchanges, he sends everyone away. He knows human nature all too well, having lived through 2 years of the apocalypse. Now that he has money and power, even excrement smells sweet to him. People, when you're at the peak, you find that everyone around you is a good person. Human nature, it's the hardest thing to grasp. So, for the past 5 years since his rebirth, Lu Lei has been actively preparing very thoroughly. But he hasn't invested in any of the famous powerhouses from his previous life. Given his stature, he could definitely find those well-known people from his previous life, but there's no need. When the apocalypse comes, the least reliable thing is people. Rather than pinning your hopes of survival on others, it's better to strengthen yourself. Although strengthening oneself is costly, like the nearly 10,000 tigers he's breeding right now, it's not something that can be done just by having money. You also need an official identity on the surface, and a suitable reason. Of course. Now, apart from a small number of staff, no one knows that he has bred thousands of tigers. The official side probably understands that his tiger park has about 3,000 Siberian tigers. If they knew he had nearly 10,000 tigers, most of which were smuggled from other countries, the government would definitely intervene. Nearly 10,000 tigers, even in the real society. It can absolutely be considered a major threat. A slight mishap could seriously endanger social security. Given Lu Lei's stature, he can hide it for a few more days. There shouldn't be any major problems. Lu Lei's gaze is far-reaching, not knowing whether he's looking at these 7,000 tigers or looking into the future. I hope the contract is successful, otherwise I'll have to kill you all. The best plan for the past 5 years of preparation, naturally, also has the worst plan. If in the end, he doesn't even contract a big tiger, and he still has a blank attribute, naturally, he wouldn't just go and die, he would do everything possible to fight for a chance to survive. The speed of evolution refers to the amount of energy obtained from absorbing a piece of blood essence. In his previous life, Lu Lei could only get 10% of the energy from absorbing a piece of level 1 blood essence, while Xian Yao Qiao gets 90%. That's the difference. But if you absorb 10 pieces when Xian Yao Qiao absorbs 1, isn't that okay? So, Lu Lei also has the worst plan. The 7,000 tigers in front of him are locked in cages. These cages are made of specific metals. After the apocalypse, newly evolved creatures are not very strong. The cages in front of them, even if they evolve, they would find it hard to escape. By then, Lu Lei will set up a few machine guns in the center of the cage. Even if he can't hoard contracted beasts, hoarding 7,000 pieces of evolved blood essence would still mean that his 5 years of effort weren't in vain. Only 5 days left. Lu Lei's eyes are shining. The government staff had no idea that Lu Lei had secretly been raising tens of thousands of tigers. But there's nothing new under the sun. Xian Yao Qiao found out through her own means and knew that Lu Lei had spent a lot of money buying these tigers. This matter had her chest trembling with anger. These were 10,000 tigers, not some petty cats and dogs. What to do now? Xian Yao Qiao crossed her legs, staring blankly at the direction where Lu Lei was from a skyscraper. He had raised nearly 10,000 tigers, and 7,000 of them were smuggled in. This was no child's play. It was evident that Lu Lei was genuinely devoted to raising tigers. Thinking about the conversation that day, Xian Yao Qiao gritted her teeth. Scoundrel, talking about moral values. With your moral values, you use 500 billion to play with tigers. Who could share moral values with you? Die alone. She said so, but she was also constantly calculating in her heart. Nearly 10,000 tigers, of which only the Northeast tigers were local. The other tigers would definitely have issues adapting to the new environment, and these tigers were not easy to herd together. Different species, put together, it's either you die or I die. Moreover, Lu Lei's tiger garden was only so big, it's impossible to keep tens of thousands of tigers, right? There's always the day to return to the wild. But these tens of thousands of tigers will definitely seriously damage the local ecology, and the government and the people will definitely not allow it. In other words, this is a dead end. If they continue to be kept in the tiger garden, it won't be long before these tigers will naturally get sick and die. If they are not kept and returned to the wild, the situation will be worse. So many tigers returned to the mountains might be captured because they pose a threat to public safety. Isn't this ridiculous? Xian Yao Qiao spat out a mouthful, murmuring. Keeping so many tigers and having nowhere to put them, haven't you heard of one mountain cannot contain 2 tigers? Wait for a few days and see how you handle it. But this could be a good thing. Her eyes brightened slightly. It would be best if Lu Lei couldn't raise these tigers. It would be best if he went bankrupt. Let's see if he still pretends. Xian Yao Qiao was so annoyed at the thought of Lu Lei's annoying face. He was training like a bull, just waiting for this day, right? You wanted to beat me back when we were kids, didn't you? No way. Xian Yao Qiao had made up her mind. When Lu Lei went bankrupt and had nowhere to go, she would go and pick him up. Thinking of the down-and-out Lu Lei, who would be doubting himself at that time, feeling that the world was dark. And she would come down like an angel, giving him help. He would definitely be grateful. Little guy, aren't you going to be fascinated? Thinking about it, Xian Yao Qiao was all excited, and she had already started to look forward to that day. And it seems that day will come soon. How to raise these messy tigers is a big problem. Buying so much meat every day, it's strange if the government doesn't suspect. Perhaps, the government already knew, it's just that this guy did a good job of covering up. The government, my god, how could I forget, smuggling tigers is illegal, damn, won't you be arrested and sentenced for 10 or 8 years? Xian Yaoqiao realized her mistake late, and only then did she remember that the tiger is a national second-class protected animal. This kind of smuggling. If caught, it's impossible to be lightly sentenced. Isn't this ridiculous? Her face tightened, she was just gloating, and when she realized this point, she immediately turned pale, and quickly called Lu Lei. A moment later, the call was connected, and a very calm and gentle voice came from the other end. Hello, what's up? You son of AB********H. Xian Yaoqiao started scolding with a crying tone, followed by endless resentment. You raise tigers, just raise tigers, aren't the Northeast tigers in our country enough for you to raise? Didn't the higher-ups give you a red-headed document allowing you to raise them? What do you mean by it's enough for you to raise the Northeast tigers, why do you raise some Bengal tigers? Bengal tigers? I don't care what tiger it is, damn, I hate tigers the most, let it die. Do you know that what you're doing is illegal? 7,000 tigers, enough to execute you 10 times over. I see now, you're not trying to raise tigers, you're trying to commit suicide, aren't you? No. On the other end of the phone, Lu Lei had a bitter expression. He could feel Xian Yaoqiao's concern and worry. To be honest, it's nice to have someone who cares about you in this world. He thought of a kind lie. Xian Yaoqiao, don't panic first, call me sister. Lu Lei shook his head with a smile. Even at this critical moment, she still wanted to suppress him. He said, the higher-ups allowed me to do this. The state found that the reproduction of wild animals in Changbai Mountain has exceeded the normal speed and has begun to endanger social safety. Hearing this, Xian Yaoqiao was stunned. If this was the case, it did make some sense. Recently, she did hear a lot of news about wild animals hurting people. So you bought 7,000 tigers to let the tigers massively hunt wild animals? Yes, something like that. Okay, I'll believe you for now. Xian Yaoqiao was in a state of panic just now. Now that she heard a detailed explanation, she calmed down quite a bit. That's right, Lu Lei is not the kind of reckless person who would do something that would lead to his own demise. But just in case, she still planned to set up a complete escape plan for Lu Lei. If something really happened, run out of the country immediately. Of course, she wouldn't say these words. If she did, wouldn't Lu Lei think that she cared about him too much? Okay, then there's nothing wrong. She hung up the phone with a snap, thinking that she was doing things for the country now, really capable. Ha! Xian Yaoqiao shook her head disdainfully. Since this kid was safe, let him mess around. In her view, this matter was not reliable anyway. Raising tigers to massively hunt wild animals, wouldn't that seriously disrupt the food chain? In the end, not to mention the tigers being hunted, there's still a pot that needs someone to carry. Really stupid, Xian Yaoqiao was really convinced. How could such a smart younger brother when he was a kid become so stupid when he grew up? There will be a day when you need me. What could she do? Of course, she had to be fully prepared to clean up the mess for that stubborn guy as much as possible. There was no way, when they were young, the troubles Lu Lei caused were always resolved by her. Just as she was thinking about it, there was a knock on the door. Come in. Ms. Xian, there's a Mr. Lu outside who wants to see you. He said he has contacted you. The secretary came in to ask. Lu? Xian Yaoqiao subconsciously thought of Lu Lei, somewhat delighted, but knew it was impossible. She unlocked her phone and sure enough, it was Lu Tianju. The message on the screen read, Yaoqiao, I'm at the door of your company right now. Do you have time to go out for a meal together? Xian Yaoqiao was already on edge, and felt sick when she saw this message. She immediately replied, eating with you makes me lose my appetite. Didn't I make it clear to you before, how could you forget so quickly? Then I'll say it again. I will marry no one but Lu Lei. And, I don't know what your family is thinking. You're taking the old man's words as the wind, aren't you? The engagement was clearly between me and Lu Lei. What do you and your father mean by coming to our house? I didn't say anything at the time out of respect for the occasion. Why on earth are you still going on about this? We've only met a few times throughout our lives, we're not that close. So, please, stop calling me Chow Chow, Chow, your mother's head, I'm blocking you. After writing a short essay and venting in C language, I instantly felt much better. Downstairs, a Porsche awaits. Lu Tianju saw the message on his phone, nearly smashing his phone in anger. Thinking of the sender's identity, he held back that he sent a reply, "Don't be angry, I won't call you Chow Chow anymore." The moment the message was sent, a red exclamation mark immediately popped up on the screen. Darn it, she really blocked me. Is this woman crazy? Lu Tianju was speechless. The two families had always been in a cooperative relationship. Even if offended, she wouldn't go as far as to block him. This damn, as he reread the short essay, one sentence struck him painfully. I will not marry anyone but Lu Lei. It wasn't as if Lu Lei had saved her entire family, damn. Damn it. Lu Tianju, frustrated and angry, began to bang on the steering wheel. Every time he thought of his younger brother, Lu Lei, he couldn't help but sneer. So, you like Lu Lei so much, you won't marry anyone but him, huh? Good, good, good. If it were the Lu Lei of the past, Lu Tianju wouldn't utter a word of objection, that he would even congratulate his brother and sister-in-law, and when seeing Xian Yao Chao, he wouldn't dare show any disrespect. But what is Lu Lei doing now? He's raising tigers. Ha ha ha, raising tigers. Thinking about this, Lu Tianju suddenly didn't feel angry anymore. What was there to be angry about? She won't marry anyone but Lu Lei. Well, let her marry a loser. With the size of their two family businesses, marriage is not a game, and many times, they can't even make the decision themselves. In the past, when Lu Lei was the decision maker of the family business, nobody dared to oppose his marriage to Xian Yao Chao, but now he's raising tigers, abandoning the parent company that spans heavy industry, resources, entertainment, real estate, gaming, and more at the age of 20-something that he's playing with tigers now. Haha. He's lost his ambition, raising tigers now. What kind of future does he have? Thinking of this, Lu Tianju dialed a number. On the other end of the phone was a family-appointed surveillance team, monitoring Lu Lei's movements around the clock. Hello, how's Lu Lei doing lately? A deep voice quickly responded from the other end of the phone. Same as always, he spends his days in the Tiger Park, lives in the Tiger Park. Oh right, he recently purchased a lot of supplies from a large supermarket. Purchased supplies? How much? Lu Tianju was puzzled. A lot, enough for 10,000 people to live for 10 years, all stored in his safe house. What? Lu Tianju was taken aback when he heard this. Why would he buy so much food and even set up a safe house? Is he preparing for the end of the world? Ha ha ha. Lu Tianju laughed so hard he nearly fell over. Rich people are afraid of death. He had heard of some top-tier tycoons building top-tier safe houses in preparation for the end of the world, but he didn't expect his own brother to be so eccentric. At his age, not knowing how to enjoy life, he had locked himself in a steel shell, which was too amusing. And the tigers he's raising? Lu Tianju asked casually. Same as always, 3,000 tigers stored in the Tiger Park, but in a while, they will cooperate with the government to release some back into the wild. Haha, good, good, good. Lu Tianju laughed even harder. His brother was really a fool, spending so much money to raise tigers, and in the end, he had to release them back into the wild. What could the government give him? An award, verbal praise. Alright, that's it. If there's any movement, notify us immediately. Yes. After hanging up the phone, Lu Tianju suddenly felt a sense of melancholy. People are really different. Some people seem to be ahead, but at some point in life, they might fall into a pit. Just half a year ago, he had to bow and scrape when he saw Lu Lei. His attitude was extremely humble, but now, this top boss suddenly decided to raise tigers. But raising tigers is easy. Coming back to be a boss is hard without the support of the family, without the connections accumulated over generations. Even if he regrets it in the future and wants to do something, it will be as difficult as climbing to the sky. Their family still carries the surname Lu, but it's now his, Lu Tianju's, Lu. TSK. Lu Tianju was very comfortable, tapping on the Porsche, shaking his head and swaying, thinking about the foundation that Lu Lei had worked hard to build. He was enjoying it. Maybe in a while, Lu Lei's woman will also marry him, Xian Yao Chao. Although her temper is a bit bad, she is really good looking. Her hips are wider than her shoulders, her chest is bigger than her head, her legs are longer than her life. It's unknown how she grew or trained, it simply defies the laws of human growth. Lu Tianju has played with $2,000 models, tens of thousands of dollar stars, if not hundreds, at least 50. He believes that just in terms of physique, none of them can match Xian Yao Chao. Moreover, what is Xian Yao Chao's identity? The CEO of a listed company. Once she puts on those black high heels, her aura is unmatched. She is not comparable to any of the women out there. Playing with women is honestly boring after a while. Appearance is not important. What is more important is identity, status, and a sense of conquest. If he could have Xian Yao Chao under him, even if the end of the world really came, it would be worth it. TSK. Lu Tianju shook his head and swayed, took out his phone and found all kinds of contact information for Xian Yao Chao, including Jifu Bao, Meitu, Weixin. A good woman is afraid of a persistent man. He didn't believe he couldn't get Xian Yao Chao, and the two companies had a big cooperation recently, and both sides hoped to strengthen their ties through marriage. Looking at Father Xian's intentions, he also had the idea of matchmaking the two of them. Her father agreed. Could she still turn the sky upside down? I must have her under me. Ho ho ho, Lu Tianju fantasized about the scene, feeling exhilarated all over. He thought about how this should have belonged to Lu Lei, to the brother who had always been above him. All the cells in his body were jumping. Ha ha ha, raising tigers, building safe houses, hoarding supplies, good brother, I hope you can always do this. Ha ha ha. As he laughed, a message popped up on his phone, a headline news on Weibo.expert. The rate of animal reproduction in recent years is not normal, the end of the world may be coming, ha ha ha. Lu Tianju laughed even harder. Isn't this idiotic? Ha, idiotic expert, linking animal reproduction to the end of the world. Lu Lei, that kid, didn't see these news and do all this today, did he? I can't, I'm dying of laughter. Lu Tianju was laughing so hard he was almost rolling on the floor, happily picking up his phone, ready to call a girl to play with. What end of the world is this? This is heaven. There are 3 days left until the end of the world. Lu Lei looked at his custom-made multifunctional watch worth hundreds of millions, murmuring to himself. To be precise, 2 days, 18 hours, 37 minutes, 5 seconds, right, 4 seconds now. Time was closing in, and Lu Lei was fully prepared, just like a student about to head to the examination hall for the college entrance examination. It was time to test the results of these 5 years, but now, there was still time to sharpen the gun at the last moment. Money was useless. He still had 50 billion in his account, and if he didn't spend all of it, he always felt that he was at a loss. How to spend it? This was a difficult question. Sigh, I earned too much. Lu Lei was somewhat helpless. Sharpening one sword on the battlefield, it's late but still shining. Lu Lei inspected the entire tiger park, looking for any deficiencies. First of all, nearly 10,000 tigers had been properly placed, and 3,000 Siberian tigers were also housed in cages. This was Lu Lei's biggest reliance and preparation for the arrival of the apocalypse. Night fell. In the dark open space, each pair of eyes shone with a green light. Even though Lu Lei dealt with these creatures every day, he still felt a bit of a chill. Over 10,000 tigers, the so-called quantitative change causes qualitative change. Over 10,000 tigers, even if not in the apocalypse, without having undergone evolution, already possess an impressive force. Continuing further, he unlocked a cipher lock from a hidden place to enter underground. Pressing the smart button, suddenly the place was illuminated. In view, within the 2-story high space, thousands of guns of all sizes were mounted on the walls. Below were piles of ammunition, pure golden bullets, dazzling to the eyes. The second preparation was for arms. The precision weapons in sight, including pistols, rifles, submachine guns, sniper rifles, machine guns of all kinds, were excellently made, absolutely efficient tools for reaping lives. The underground armory, with an internal space of up to 10,000 square meters, apart from firearms, also had various types of shells, hand grenades, landmines, sea mines, including some chemical weapons, some biological weapons, some new concept weapons, in short, weapons that could be bought on the market, and those that couldn't be bought. Lu Lei had collected some, in case a certain weapon might be surprisingly effective. Just the contents of this one warehouse had cost Lu Lei 400 billion, comparable to the 10,000 tigers outside. After the apocalypse, heavy firepower could still cause significant damage to evolved creatures in a short time. In the previous life, 3 of the top 10 evolved humans came from the military, which had a lot to do with this. Evolution was a thing where if you were one step slow, you were slow in every step. If you could use external objects at the beginning, you could leave others behind. Although there were enough things, Lu Lei was still not satisfied. Compared with the National Reserve, this was simply a small witch meeting a big witch. He knew that in a certain mountain, there was an underground military reserve warehouse that was nearly 500 square kilometers. That military power, he didn't even dare to think about it, but the use of these arms could only be manifested in the early days of the apocalypse. The evolution of wild animals far exceeded everyone's imagination. After just a few blood moon cycles, ordinary arms could hardly cause harm to wild animals, and could only barely deal with the walking dead in the city. After a brief inspection, Lu Lei left to check on the third layer of preparation. Separated by a good distance from the armory, he arrived at the underground food storage. Opening the door, crossing the tunnel, and entering underground, what came into view was a high about 3 meters, an endless underground grain storehouse. At this moment, the grain storehouse was already filled with grain. After special treatment, coupled with the constant temperature underground, these grains could be preserved for decades. Its quantity is as high as 100,000 tons. Although this number is not comparable to the large grain storage in the country, 100,000 tons of grain is enough for Lu Lei to eat for 500,000 years. Food. How to say it? If the strength is strong, the apocalypse simply does not lack food. Evolved animals and plants are exceptionally delicious, full of nutrition, but how many people can withstand the evolved animal food? Ordinary evolvers can handle the soft persimmons, mostly the walking dead in the city, but those are humans. Many people simply cannot take the step to eat people, and Lu Lei knew that there would be problems with cannibalism. Coming out of the grain warehouse, Lu Lei opened the secret door and arrived at the material storage warehouse. This warehouse was Completely built according to military storage standards, the supplies inside include food, including but not limited to mineral water, canned fruit, canned meat, self-heating food, compressed biscuits, dehydrated vegetables, compound vitamin tablets, toiletries, including but not limited to towels, toothbrushes, toothpaste, laundry detergent, healthcare products. Although Lu Lei didn't need them, there were no women around for the time being, but just in case that he had too much money and too much space, and it was always right to prepare more things, clothing, including but not limited to seasonal clothing, underwear, outdoor military suits. In addition, there were emergency escape tools, emergency contact tools, survival aid tools, household tools, various kinds of medicine, and so on. It's not an exaggeration to say that he moved the Walmart warehouse to his home, all things, enough for him to survive for tens of thousands of years. These things could not save his life, but at least if the apocalypse came, he would not starve to death before death came. If he became incredibly powerful after the contract, these supplies could also raise his standard of living by a notch. Coming out of the 3 warehouses, he arrived at the outdoor garage, where military-grade armored off-road vehicles were parked, a total of 10. These could ensure his short-term travel. In addition to this, there was also the safe house located in the center of all the warehouses, which was the military fortress that hollowed out the entire mountain, wrapped in granite up to 500 meters thick, and the world's strongest metal. Inside, there were not only secret passages leading to each warehouse, but also extremely hidden surveillance equipment in all directions, monitoring the Tiger Park covering thousands of square kilometers. The military fortress not only had a complete breathing filtration system, a water circulation system, an alarm system, a resource collection system, but also a sufficient amount of fuel storage underneath. It could provide enough electricity for the entire military fortress. If nothing went wrong, it could be recycled for 100 years. Is this probably the most awesome apocalypse fortress in the world? After touring around, Lu Lei naturally felt a sense of satisfaction. It would be great if he knew the apocalypse well. At least it's not a problem to live for 100 years. Unfortunately, it's not. Everything was settled. He left the military base and returned to the Tiger Park Company. As soon as he entered the building, he noticed a figure that had been waiting here. The figure came forward, bowed his head respectfully, and a low voice rang out. "Young master, Lu Tianju asked about you today. As per your instructions, I told him the untrue information." Lu Tianju. Lu Lei's steps paused slightly, not taking it too seriously. The people at home really cared about his situation. They were probably preparing to watch a joke. Who knows who the joke really is? Money, popularity, connections, resources, these things that seem extremely important now, on the day the apocalypse comes, won't even be able to exchange for a piece of bread. Let them be. Lu Lei didn't take these family members seriously at all. 2 years of the apocalypse had made his heart incredibly cold. "You did a good job, you can go now." "Yes." Li Pingshan left as ordered, his expression unchanged, but inside he was already in turmoil. As a spy, no one knew more than he did. Lu Lei was far from the toy that everyone imagined. What exactly is he going to do? Could it be that the end of the world is really coming? Li Pingshan couldn't help but shudder. If that's the case, he must cling to Lu Lei's leg.as for his own family. Who are they? There's 1 day left until the apocalypse. Lu Lei began to dismiss almost all of the staff. Each employee took a year-end bonus of 100,000 yuan, their hearts filled with joy. Boss Lu is so generous. It's really nice. 10,000 yuan is enough for me to travel to Tibet for a few days. Boss Lu has said, don't go to crowded places for vacation, we should be ready to be called at any time. Ah, right, then listen to Boss Lu and go back to the countryside to accompany my parents for a good Lunar New Year. He also asked us to stock up on food, it's as if it's the end of the world. You do have a wild imagination. Yeah, there's no such thing as the end of the world. Boss, do we have to leave too? Dozens of professional breeders looked surprised. You have to know that the daily care of 10,000 tigers is a substantial amount of work. Boss Lu, you can't feed so many tigers by yourself. Yeah, let's stay. I've gotten used to not going home for so many years, and there's no meaning in celebrating the new year now. There was a lot of discussion among the crowd. Go home for the new year. Lu Lei gave a slight smile, gave each person a red envelope containing 200,000 yuan, heavy and full. Seeing everyone's hesitation, he forcefully stuffed it into their hands, insisting, you've worked hard following me all these years, this is what you deserve. Go home and have a good new year, and if you listen to me, stock up on some food at home. All right. Dozens of breeders looked doubtful, but didn't say anything. For some reason, there was a feeling of parting, as if they would never see each other again. And what's with the stocking up? Why has Boss Lu been emphasizing this recently? Is it his hobby, or does he know something unknown? The staff took his words to heart. Perhaps it was Lu Lei's charisma that led to this, or it was the words of a billionaire boss. Naturally, they were convincing. After dismissing everyone, only Lu Lei and Li Pingshan were left in the Tiger Park. The two exchanged glances. Uncle Li, are you not leaving? Young master. Li Pingshan bowed his head humbly. I'm alone, this place is my home, I'll spend the new year with the young master here. Lu Lei looked at Li Pingshan with interest, considering whether to kill him. After thinking about it, he gave up the idea. Firstly, Li Pingshan was the housekeeper who had watched him grow up since he was a child. When he was chosen to spy on him by his own family, he was the first to inform him. His loyalty was very high. Secondly, people are social animals. Being alone is too lonely. Thirdly, with one more person, there is one more pair of hands. The efficiency of doing things will be much higher. Of course, the most important thing is that Lu Lei knew Li Pingshan's evolution level. It was the same as his past life, there was no threat at all. Thinking of this, as the end of the world approached, Lu Lei had some small matters to deal with. He sat on the side and casually asked, Uncle Li, do you believe in the end of the world? Li Pingshan's hair stood on end. This sentence contained a lot of information. First, Lu Lei might be dissatisfied with him. The more he knew, the faster he would die. Second, the end of the world is coming. No matter which one, for ordinary people like him, it was a death sentence. He swallowed his saliva, lowered his eyes, and replied respectfully, Young master, I didn't believe it before. But with the recent news on TV and your actions, even someone with as little imagination as me is starting to doubt the end of the world. Right, the end of the world is coming. In 18 hours, no, 17 hours and 53 minutes, Lu Lei said calmly. When his words reached Li Pingshan's ears, it was like a thunderbolt out of the blue. In an instant, countless questions floated in his mind. Is there really an end of the world? Why does the young master know? What should I do? As a middle-aged man, I still want to live. I only know that the only thing I should do now is to hold on to the big leg. Young master, I'm very stupid. I only know that if you tell me these things, you must need me somewhere. Please give your orders. Good. Lu Lei liked talking to smart people. Li Pingshan was close to 50 years old, not very ambitious, but still energetic. Having been a housekeeper for so many years, he was very capable of handling things. This kind of person was especially suitable to be a deputy. There wasn't much time. Lu Lei arranged all the things that needed to be handled. First, Uncle Li, I've arranged for a lot of online trolls to spread the news that there are nearly 10,000 tigers in my tiger park. You will be in charge of real-time liaising later, making sure that the nearby provinces all know about this. The first sentence blew Li Pingshan away. Was the news of nearly 10,000 tigers supposed to be told to the public? Yes. Li Pingshan knew that he should ask what he should ask, and not ask what he shouldn't. If Lu Lei wanted him to know, he would naturally say it. Right, it's like this. Lu Lei was very satisfied with Li Pingshan's attitude, but some things still had to be made clear. In case Li Pingshan misunderstood, it would be a waste of time. I've been stockpiling supplies, building military fortresses, and setting up top-level safe houses here. Although not many people know about it, there are some. In recent years, Lu Lei has been building and stockpiling materials. Many people in the surrounding villages have seen it. The information network in this village is like a chain reaction. If one person knows, the whole village knows. When the end of the world comes, when everyone has nothing to eat and no safe place to gather, they will naturally think of the tiger park, not afraid of thieves, but afraid of thieves thinking. By releasing the news, after spreading rumors, this place will naturally be known as the forbidden zone of life. Of course, it is indeed a forbidden zone of life. Lu Lei still had some conscience. He didn't want the people in the nearby provinces to lose their lives because of this. Trouble should be minimized as much as possible before the end of the world. As for the government's suspicion and investigation, there are only a few hours left until the new year. No one will immediately start an investigation because of unfounded news. Secondly, later you will use the plant protection drone to sprinkle DDT around the tiger park until the end of the world comes. Sprinkle as much as you can. DDT. Li Pingshan was shocked. This was a banned pesticide in the country, which caused great environmental pollution. In other words, this was illegal. Is there a problem? Lu Lei slightly frowned. No. No problem. Li Pingshan quickly patted his chest and stated, Don't worry, young master, leave it all to me. He knew in his heart these operations probably have something to do with the end of the world. He gritted his teeth and decided to go for it, since he had already believed in the end of the world, whether it was illegal or not seemed irrelevant. Good, that's it. Lu Lei was about to go see to who and communicate some feelings before the end of the world, but he didn't expect a sudden piece of news to interrupt all his plans. Boss Lu, do you still want the Siberian tigers? Lei Lu stopped in his tracks when he saw the message. The sender was their contact in Russia. They had been in communication for a while, but the other party had been reluctant to ship. Lei Lu had no control over this, and had thought that the 10,000 tigers already in the zoo were enough, but of course, one could never have too many of such things. He immediately replied. I need them, but when can you deliver? I'm in a hurry. The end of the world was just a few hours away, so time was extremely tight. He decided to call directly. The call was answered instantly, and a stiff Mandarin came from the other end. Boss Lei Lu had no intention of being courteous with the other party, and directly expressed his demand firmly. Can you deliver today? If you can't, I don't need them. The Russian on the other end was silent for a moment before gritting his teeth and responding. Boss Lei, this is not something that can be done in a short time. You have to know, you ordered 5,000 Siberian tigers from us, and I think, even a god would find it difficult to transport these tigers from our country to China. Lei Lu didn't know much about their transportation channels. He always left the professional matters to the professionals, but now was not the time to understand the other party's difficulties. At this juncture, only the tigers that could be delivered had value. In response, his voice remained firm. I don't care, whatever number of Siberian tigers you can deliver today, I'll pay you the black market price for them. After today, even if you can deliver, I won't buy. But Boss Lei, this is not according to the rules. You ordered 10,000 Siberian tigers from us, and we have indeed raised that many. So what? Haven't I been providing the feeding costs for these years? Isn't the price I offered far above the market price? Speaking of the feeding costs, haven't you made a huge profit from it? But now, the tigers have not been delivered according to our agreed time. When it came to this, Lei Lu couldn't help but get a little angry. The smuggling and transportation of tigers had been planned over several years, many countries, organizations, and governments were involved, only Russia had been dragging its feet. So, you didn't deliver the tigers according to the agreed time, I don't want them anymore. Any problem? The voice on the other end was speechless. After all, the initiative was now in the hands of the buyer. If Lei Lu really didn't buy, then all these goods would be stuck with them. In Russia, Suvorov and his subordinates looked at each other, all understanding Lei Lu's meaning through translation. Some were indignant. What does Lei Lu mean by not wanting them after today? Is he making things difficult for us? Damn it, raising Siberian tigers is not a matter of years or months. We've spent so much money, and he just says he doesn't want them. I said before, we should have transported the tigers earlier, not wait until now. Sigh, who knew the government would suddenly issue an order to slaughter the Siberian tigers? Now we have nearly 20,000 Siberian tigers, aren't they stuck with us? Suvorov was silent. The reason they didn't ship the tigers to Lei Lu before was not because there was a problem with the transportation channels. It was because not long ago, there were too many Siberian tigers in the Far East region of Russia, and the government issued an order that hunters could kill them freely. So, they thought they could take advantage of this period to get more Siberian tigers and sell them all to Lei Lu. When they delivered 20,000 tigers all at once, he would have to buy them, whether he wanted to or not. But they didn't expect, they were just 1 week later than the scheduled time, and the other party didn't want them. Boss, what should we do? His subordinates looked at each other. This was not just their organization's business. Almost all those in Russia who were in this line of work, including the local government, were involved. If the order was cancelled, who would take the blame for the anger of all parties? Damn it, ship as many as you can. Suvorov gritted his teeth. There was no other way now but to do as Lei Lu wanted. Quickly notify all organizations to call in whoever can be called in. Also, all transportation channels, use them all, boss, even the most dangerous ones. A few people were a little shocked. Russia was very close to China, and their location was just across a river from where Lei Lu was. In other words, if you were brave, not afraid of death, and had a good physique, you could swim across. Use them, tell the brothers that if something happens, they bear the responsibility themselves. But the organization will not let them suffer. Okay, everyone agreed and quickly got busy. Soon, the tiger breeding ground was full of thousands of busy people. In just half an hour, all the Siberian tigers in the cages were injected with a strong anesthetic and fell asleep. They were then transported to specially made tiger transportation trucks by machines. A truck could originally only carry 100 tigers, but now it was forcefully loaded with 200. Damn, won't they be crushed to death? A loader frowned. The tigers were piled 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. If you didn't know better, you might think it was dead meat. Do you care? The loader next to him wiped his sweat while speaking nonchalantly. Anyway, even if they die, Lei Lu has to pay. That's true. Thinking of the profits, the loaders worked even harder. Who didn't know that Lei Lu was a rich sucker? Selling him tigers was a big profit. Who would have thought the Siberian tigers that are almost overflowing in our country can be sold at such a high price in China? Indeed, you don't know, not only does Lei Lu raise Siberian tigers in China, but he also seems to have some Bengal tigers. What does he raise so many tigers for? Who knows, he's just idle. The thoughts of rich people are really hard to understand. Anyway, I think it's pretty stupid. +1 inch, plus everyone was busy while casually joking. Due to the high degree of mechanization, the work was done very quickly. 5 hours later, truckloads of Siberian tigers were sent out one after another to various transportation points. Although they had only been working for less than 5 hours, these burly Russians were almost exhausted. On average, each tiger weighed 300 to 400 pounds. How many have been shipped? Suvorov, soaked in sweat, had used all the energy he usually used on women. Boss, 16,000. His subordinate was quite excited. How many? 16,000. Holy shit. Suvorov's face lit up with excitement. How much money would these 16,000 tigers make? Units, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, father, grandfather, ancestors. Damn it, we're rich. Of course, he knew that many of these 16,000 would be injured or die due to violent transportation, but they all had to be sold at the original price. He had already taken a step back just now. If Lei Lu didn't even agree to this, then let him see what is Euro. At this moment, in the Tiger Park. Mr. Lu, you have no idea how much effort we've put into this. Damn it, I don't understand why you Chinese people are still so diligent during the new year. To deliver more tigers to you in a short time, my brothers have taken too many risks. In just the past few hours, we've lost quite a few men. It's too difficult, Mr. Lu. This is not as simple as a few hundred sows, these are tens of thousands of tigers. You're really making things difficult for us, Mr. Lu. Lu Lei frowned, thinking to himself, are these people from Maogwa so long-winded? He didn't have time to chat with them, that he thought it would be important information, but when he opened it, it was all complaints. It seemed to have a purpose. So what do you want to do? Just say it. As soon as the message was sent, the other side immediately replied, with a laughing emoji attached. Here's the thing, Mr. Lu, due to your demanding requirements, we've done our best to meet them. But in doing so, we've incurred a lot of unnecessary losses, like my brothers. Cut to the chase. We need more money. Lu Lei rubbed his forehead slightly, reading between the lines. So that's what it was. These people from Maogwa, nearly 60 billion in final payments weren't enough for them? Thinking about it, Lu Lei looked at the balance of 20 billion in his account and agreed generously. No problem, you know, Su Weilai, I'm a man who keeps his word. As long as you deliver the Siberian tigers, I'll pay for as many as you deliver. I understand your difficulties, and I also know how responsible the border soldiers of my country are, so I'll take full responsibility for your losses. I'll give you an extra 10 billion, okay? The message was sent just 2 seconds later, and immediately received an enthusiastic reply. Good, good, good. Mr. Lu, I knew you were a trustworthy partner, I trust you. Seeing this, Lu Lei finally put down his phone. Although he only had 20 billion now, after the end of the world, he would find a way to earn more. He prides himself on being a man who keeps his promises. If the other party is still alive, and is willing to accept those waste papers after the end of the world, he would be happy to pay off the balance. After putting down his phone, Lu Lei went to the Tiger Park and actively played with the big tiger. At present, no matter how many Siberian tigers he got, the most likely to contract is still the big tiger. Playing and frolicking, time passed quickly. There were still 3 hours left until the end of the world. Young master. Li Pingshan came to Lu Lei's side, his eyelids uncontrollably twitching. Every time he saw Lu Lei playing with the big tiger, he would have the feeling that Lu Lei's entire head would be swallowed by the big tiger in the next second. Is it done? Lu Lei stroked the tiger's head, thinking that stroking a big cat is actually a very cool thing. Not only has a relatively comfortable touch, but also a strong sense of achievement. It's done. Li Pingshan reported truthfully with a serious mind. According to your arrangements, young master, I have sprayed DDT for several kilometers around the Tiger Park. Also, as per your instructions, I have published one-sided pictures and information on the internet. With the help of a large number of online trolls, the internet is now fermenting. Many people have begun to condemn you. Oh? Lu Lei opened his phone, casually clicked on the local section, scrolled up and down, and sure enough, he found a message from someone claiming to have insider information about him. There were countless comments below. Raising so many tigers? What the hell is this? That's too dangerous, isn't it? Isn't the government going to do anything about this? This should be illegal, right? Do these rich people have a mental problem? I really can't stand it. I live nearby. Who would dare to live nearby? After just a few glances, Lu Lei put his phone down indifferently. The goal had been achieved. As soon as he put down his phone, a few calls came in. Looking at the names, they were the head of the Wild Animal Protection Bureau, the local police station chief, the head of the Internet Supervision Bureau. He picked up the phone and fobbed them off. There's no such thing, Director. How could I keep tens of thousands of tigers? You know, I've only kept 3,000 as arranged by the state. I know what's going on. One of the employees left the company because of some issues. I don't know where he got the dissatisfaction from, and deliberately used some false materials and pictures to smear me. Yes, don't worry. I would never do anything illegal. I'm not sick, what would I do with so many tigers? What, you're saying that a big shot named Lu Tianju directly contacted Beijing to report me? No, is he sick? Okay, tomorrow you send a special staff to have a look. I am definitely a law-abiding good citizen. Alright, that's it. After hanging up the phone, Lu Lei had a dark face. Is this Lu Tianju alright? He directly used his connections to report him to Beijing based on hearsay. He really wanted him dead. If it weren't for Lu Lei's good relationship with the local government over the years, and the fact that today is the Chinese New Year, the local government would have probably come to inspect the tiger park under pressure. He almost screwed things up. It's really easier to deal with the devil than with a little devil. When the end of the world comes, if there's a chance to meet again, he might as well send him off. It's hard to be alive. A little hiccup didn't affect Lu Lei's mood. Before the end of the world, everything else seemed irrelevant. Soon, trucks full of Siberian tigers slowly drove into the tiger park, and according to Lu Lei's request, they parked in the open space one by one. Boss, do we just park here and not unload the goods? In another 4 or 5 hours, the anesthesia will be enough. A loader was worried. No need. Looking at the tens of thousands of tigers on the trucks, Lu Lei felt a surge of heat in his heart. He hadn't expected Su Weilai to be so efficient, bringing over nearly 80 full trucks of Siberian tigers. There wasn't much time left, and there wasn't time to unload so many Siberian tigers from the trucks and put them in cages. The only solution was a rough one. He firmly declined the goodwill of a group of workers, using the excuse of the New Year to persuade them to go to a nearby New Year's Eve dinner, and so, in the vast tiger park, only Lu Lei and Li Pingshan were left, and a total of 23,651 tigers, of which the world's most ferocious Siberian tigers. There were 18,986. Gulp, Li Pingshan couldn't help but swallow, not knowing what the young master was going to do. Seeing so many Siberian tigers, he was shaking all over. Uncle Li. Ah! Young master, what do you want to say? Go with me to the warehouse to get 80 bombs, and put them under the truck. As Lu Lei walked and talked, Li Pingshan followed suit. Without understanding but full of respect, the two of them were efficient and soon had the bombs installed. Li Pingshan, at Lu Lei's request, went to the safety base alone. There was only 1 hour left until the end of the world. The entire tiger park was quiet except for the big tiger. All the tigers were anesthetized and lay quietly in their cages. All the cages were arranged in a circle. At the center of the circle, Lu Lei contemplated. The preparations of 5 years were about to be tested. Suddenly, he made a bold decision, opened the cage and clung tightly to the big tiger, who let out a low growl of roar. Admittedly, if the end of the world were to break out, the big tiger would probably slap Lu Lei to death in the moment of evolution. Because evolution would infinitely stimulate the animal's instinct. But if he didn't hold on tightly, Lu Lei was worried that this would greatly reduce the probability of contracting. In his previous life, the wild boar king had slept while holding the old sow. Looking up at the sky, he was fearless. If I die, I die. If a man dies, he goes to heaven. If he doesn't die, he lives forever.